next speaker is Lisa Anna Palmer.
What if I told you that over 100,000 people were killed in a natural disaster? Would you consider that a humanitarian crisis? By show of hands. Yes. Every year in the United States, between 30 and 120,000 people die as a result of workplace stress. 38% of people, according to the International Labor Organization, are suffering from excessive work pressures. Well, guess what? There's a natural disaster happening at an office building near you. Right under our noses. It's no wonder then that only 15% of people around the globe are engaged at work. That means that 85% of people around the globe are not happy. And some of them are becoming very sick. Now, for those of you who are more bottom line oriented, this is costing the US economy over $300 billion a year. Over $30 billion in Canada. Workplace stress is costing trillions to the world economy in lost productivity. In Japan, there's a word for this. It's called karoshi, death by work. Can you imagine that in society we actually have a name for death by work? No one should die while trying to make a living. My name is Lisa Anna Palmer, and I'm the founder of the Light Your Leadership Brand Institute. And by the end of the speech, I'm going to invite you to join me to make the world a better workplace. Now, for those of you who are part of the C-suite or perhaps in HR, I'm wondering if maybe you have an inkling why these kinds of things are happening in our workplaces. Well, after having worked over 20 years in human resources and organizational development and focusing in on leadership, being a trusted advisor for leaders from supervisor all the way up to CEO, I can tell you that one of the factors influencing this is that we are promoting high performers and then we are letting them to figure it out on their own, to sink or swim. What if I told you that promoting your high performers actually hurts them? What do you think about that? When you promote someone who's really great at what they do, producing software, balancing spreadsheets, balancing financial statements, great at sales, and all of a sudden you plunk them in front of a group of 5, 10, or 20 people, and it's like, you know what, you're self-motivated, but motivate them now. Right? It's mortifying. I'll tell you a true story. My story. I know exactly what it feels like. About 15 years ago, I went from being the leader of a small team of people, high performers. We had a great time. We worked well together. We were offering HR services. And almost overnight, I got promoted to team leader of a policy group. Suddenly, I was responsible for a group of people where the next youngest was like 10 years older than me. Can you imagine what their thought was? Who's this kid? What is she telling me what to do? Well, it didn't stop there. Only a few weeks later, I was promoted to acting director of the organizational effectiveness group. I was suddenly responsible for 22 people. And again, the age gap was pretty broad, except for me and a couple of students, right? So it caused a lot of stress in my life. So every day I would come into work thinking, how am I going to motivate people, right? I was used to being self-motivated, motivating myself. I was used to achieving and performing. I was told that I was on the fast track to being an executive. And suddenly, overnight, I felt like a total failure. Now, I was able to, with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, figure it out. But let me tell you what happened by the end of 6 months. I ended up being diagnosed with fibromyalgia at 34 years old. I wasn't able to look after my toddler son because I was coming home at 8 or 9 every night. And let me just give you an idea what fibromyalgia feels like. It's chronic pain and fatigue. I was walking around feeling like I had 40-pound weights strapped onto my feet and pain in all my joints. And yet I kept showing up to work because I had 22 people relying on me. Part of my therapy was that I needed to start walking more, ironically. So I joined my parents who were in their 70s and we went mall walking, if any of you are familiar with that, right? And there I was walking 34, I could barely move. And I was being laughed by my parents' friend. She was 81 in a walker. I think you'll agree, you know you've hit rock bottom when you're getting lapsed by an 81-year-old with a walker. So think about it. In organizations, we're promoting people who are fantastic at what they do without giving a second thought about what their needs are in terms of mentorship and learning how to lead and the support that they need for that, right? The executives were too busy managing their own files to pay attention to me. The other thing is high performers that we hire because they're really great at what they do, they're honest, they have integrity. Well, guess what? When they're about ready to get promoted, we give them messages like, in order to get ahead, you need to play the game. You need to be mean. Look out for your number one. How does that feel if you're a high performer and you are a person that's used to being true to you? Feels terrible. And then my favorite message is, you've probably heard this one, in order to motivate people, you need to light a fire where? Under their asses, right? Well, that's not the truth. The truth is, if you want to motivate people and inspire and engage them, you need to light a fire in their hearts. That's the name of my new book, Light a Fire in Their Hearts, The Truth About Leadership. Let me tell you a success story. What does it look like when we provide support and mentorship? So one of my clients, we'll call her Jen to protect her identity, was also a new director. And she was brilliant, super analyst. She could figure anything out in terms of the mathematical formulas and manage a project. And really, she's wowed senior management her entire career. And suddenly she went quickly from, high-performing super analyst to manager and then to director of a fairly large group. And she called me in and she says, Lisa, I'm trying to figure out this leadership kind of thing. I don't even know if I want to advance my career as a leader because when I look up to the top of the organization, I'm seeing that there are games being played. It's hard to motivate employees when they're under really tight deadlines. How do I do this, right? And not only that, When I delegate and they're doing work, I feel like I'm not leading. Like I'm used to being the one actually doing the work. So I said, well, Jen, you're not alone. Believe me, I've been there. And guess what? You'll figure it out with some help, with some mentorship, with a process. So I worked with Jen for 3 months. And I helped her understand what motivates people, what engages and inspires. Because oftentimes we tell our high performers after we promote them into these leadership roles, oh, go forth and engage and inspire. What does that mean? Right? Well, it means connecting at the human level through compassion, courage, competence, and helping people feel like they're appreciated, like they belong, like they're included, and that their work matters, that they fit into the purpose of the organization, and they're making a difference in the lives of clients and colleagues and even senior management. So if you are in the C-suite or in HR and you're looking to promote high performers into leaders, please join me in making the world a better workplace by getting them the support that they need so they can go back with their teams and motivate them. Create healthy workplaces so that people can work and be happy coming into work and achieve great results for your organizations in a healthy and sustainable manner. Visit lisaannapalmer.com to set up a discovery session. Leadership is so important that we should not just leave it up to chance. Thank you.